There are flagship phones, then there are mid-range phones, and then we have the flagship killers, and then the Poco F6. It is more mid-range than a flagship killer, but better spec'd than most mid-range phones. The Poco F6 is arguably the best value for money as far as mid-range phones go. At least that's what it looks like based on the specs on paper. But let's dive deeper. For $410, you can pick up the Poco F6 from Amazon. You can actually find it for less than $350 on AliExpress. I'll struggle to find any phone that costs the same or less with a processor as powerful as the Snapdragon 8s Gen 3. As a matter of fact, the processor is what attracted me to buying the Poco F6. My last Poco F series phone was the F3 GT, a phone I really enjoyed using, so I was excited to pick up the F6. I have a few disappointments though, but let's save that for later. If you're in Nigeria, this is not available here officially, so you'll have to get it from AliExpress or third-party vendors or Amazon. The Poco F6 is a fine looking phone. I went with the titanium version. The unboxing experience here is conventional. There's nothing new, but it's always important to mention the fact that we are getting the 90 watts charging brick and a case in the box. Way more than you get from some manufacturers these days, names withheld. There's nothing much to say about this design because it's something we've become all too familiar with, particularly the camera arrangement. I like that the rear is textured and it curves slightly into the flat frame. Both the rear and frame are plastic. Poco has gotten rid of the headphone jack here, so if that is something you love, you might want to look elsewhere. I love the slim bezels on the display and it is one of the better looking ones out there. Compared to the previous generation, that is the Poco F5, this has an improved display resolution, precisely about 1.5K, so it is sharper, not that you'll notice. The display is as vibrant as expected with support for HDR10+, Dolby Vision, and it can get as bright as 1200 nits in high brightness mode and as much as 2400 nits in peak brightness. I do not have the tool to measure that, but I'd say it's pretty bright. There is no complaints here. The fingerprint scanner is now on the display and it works just fine. The refresh rate is 120Hz and you can set it to automatically switch between 60 and 120 depending on the system needs, or set it to 120 always. There is no 90Hz option. We get Gorilla Glass Victus protecting the display, so it is tougher. It also comes with a film screen protector pre-installed. For build quality, I'd say it checks all the boxes for a mid-range phone except ingress protection. We get IP64 here, so just dust and splash resistance. While it doesn't have that premium feel with a glass back or leather rear finish like other phones around this price point, you can take comfort in the fact that plastic is more durable, even though it scratches easily. Titanium here is in the color only, not the actual build materials, so just in case you want to pick this thinking it has a metal build, best go for the color that appeals to you. I should also mention that compared to other mid-range phones, this is quite light. It weighs just about 179 grams. That is significantly lighter than say a Galaxy A55 or even lighter than the 6.2 inches Google Pixel 8. Now this makes me wonder about its build materials because it's 6.7 inches. That is not a problem of course, just being a curious cat. The Poco F6 comes in just two memory configurations. Either you're getting the one with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage, or 12 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. No in-betweens, also not expandable. As an improvement from last year, it is UFS 4.0. That is faster storage and I think it is the fastest on any mid-range phone at the moment. On software, we get Android 14, HyperOS, and a lot of bloatware applications. Also ads, random notifications, all of which you can get rid of if you know your way around Android of course. I've had no issues using HyperOS so far. Aside the bloatware, the UI is smooth and so far lag-free. You get most of the benefits that comes with Xiaomi's new UI, bar a few like the enhanced gallery features. You can't cut out a subject when you tap and hold, but you get the lock screen customizations. I noticed when using second space even for less than a minute, the device increased in temperature. The Poco F6 is powered by the new 4nm Snapdragon 8s Gen 3, an impressive processor by all standards, and I believe this is the first phone sporting it. I can certainly say the performance has impressed me. It is what makes the Poco F6 such great value for money, seeing that it is the most powerful processor you can get on any mid-range phone. The benchmark scores are flagship level and it also got the performance to show, for the most part that is, but I think it still requires some optimization. I use it for gaming, and while I got high graphics and frame rate options on games like Warzone Mobile, I noticed a drop in performance after gaming for a few minutes. Not that it got too hot to my notice, but I experienced lags after gaming for less than 30 minutes. This was more evident with Call of Duty Warzone Mobile. I set the frame rate to uncapped and the Poco F6 handled most of it. Aside the lags that comes after a while, it actually reached 90 FPS. Maybe it would have lagged less if I reduced the resolution. PUBG Mobile can be played at 120 FPS if you set the graphics to smooth. I know of only one other mid-range phone that can do that, and it's the Infinix GT20 Pro. If you prefer your graphics fidelity over frame rates, you can play PUBG at Ultra HDR graphics settings. In my experience, while it can play at 120 FPS, you will not enjoy the gameplay. It lags. Call of Duty Mobile can be played at ultra frame rates with the graphics set to medium. That is 120 FPS for multiplayer and 90 FPS for Battle Royale. You can play at max frame rate if you prefer to max out the graphics. Gaming on the Poco F6 is great, but the performance overall is inconsistent if you are targeting highest graphics or frame rates. The good news though is that its liquid cooling technology seems to be doing a good job, because while I noticed it getting hot when using second space or gaming, it has not reached abnormal temperatures. One area you might find the Poco F6 lacking is the cameras. While the selfie camera has been improved to 20 megapixels, the results are not the best, especially compared to others at this price point. So the Poco F6 has been an interesting phone so far. It's a cool phone, but one area it's lacking, which I kind of found disappointing, has been its cameras, precisely or particularly the selfie cameras. Although it's able to do decent, but for a mid-range phone I expected better. It is currently shooting at 1080p 30 FPS. I think it can do 1080p 60. It can do 4K from the selfie camera. The video looks cool, it looks stable, but the selfie pictures have not been great. But yeah, this is the kind of quality you get from a mid-range $450 Poco F6 that has a processor as good as the Snapdragon 8S Gen 3. I'm guessing if I can get Gcam to work, I will get way better quality from this, but I mean Poco, you can do better. The main camera is now 50 megapixels while the ultra wide remains unchanged. The processing is okay for the most part, but sometimes I find the results inconsistent with colors or dynamic range. If I'm to summarize its camera performance, with selfies it can be a lot better. With the rear cameras it can be hit or miss, but when it hits, the results are encouraging. Its performance recording videos from the rear camera is the one I find the most consistent, and I'm pleased with the results. The Poco F6 is a phone with impressive specifications for its price, packing the most powerful processor for a mid-range phone, but it is lacking in the camera department. With Gcam, I'm sure you will get much better results. It is also lacking sustained performance while gaming at high frame rates or maxing out the available graphics settings. All of this can surely be fixed with some optimization over software updates. But this is the Poco F6 based on my experience. Now, while it's not the most balanced in overall performance, I still recommend it as one of the best value offerings for a mid-range phone. You can consider alternatives like the Galaxy A55, Tecno's Camon 30 Premier, or Infinix GT20 Pro. These do not offer as much power in terms of processor performance, but they are more balanced in other areas. That is all from me. Peace out.